the ancient Canaanites, Moabites, and Moors. Empirical proof of the ancient Moors of Canaan by Sheikh Wa'el. Islam and greetings to you all. I rise giving all praises to Allah and the highest of honors to his prophet, the most noble, Drew Ali. This scholastic video presentation is made to clear up misconceptions about who the ancient Canaanites and Moabites were. So let us begin. In our holy book, the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, where our true history is housed, at chapter 47, Egypt, the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa, we read, "The inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. His father Ham and his family were second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa, the dividing of the land between the father and the son. The dominion of Cush, northeast and southeast Africa, and northwest and southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. In later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa, they were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. Their dominion and inhabitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa, across Great Atlantis, even unto the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands before the great earthquake which caused the Great Atlantic Ocean. Many people believe that the Arabian Peninsula is separate from Africa. In fact, the only thing separating the two is the Red Sea. The Red Sea was caused by an earthquake along the Ethiopian Rift, as it is called. This is like saying the Mississippi River creates two different land masses, and also saying that they are separated from each other and that the people, because they are separated, are not related. The current geopolitical formation of Africa stems from the Berlin Conference of 1884, where the Europeans chopped up Africa into their own portions of real estate, most of which they still control until this day. Arabia was left off of this map and out of our minds and out of our hearts. Let us look at what the early scholars had to say about the inhabitants of ancient Canaan. In the book Anacalypsis by the indefatigable scholar and archaeologist Sir Godfrey Higgins, we read, "It was the opinion of Sir William Jones that a great nation of blacks formerly possessed the dominion of Asia and held the seat of empire at Sidon. These must have been the people called by Mr. Maurice Cushites or Cuthites, described in Genesis, and the opinion that they were blacks is corroborated by the translators of the Pentateuch called the 70, constantly rendering the word Cush by Ethiopia. It is very certain that, if this opinion be well founded, we must go for the time when the empire flourished to a period anterior to all our regular histories. It can only be known to have existed from accidental circumstances which have escaped amidst the ruins of empires and the wrecks of time. Of this nation we have no account, but it must have flourished after the deluge, and as our regular chronological systems fill up the time between the flood and what is called known, undoubted history, if it be allowed to have existed, its existence will of course prove that no dependence can be placed on the early parts of that history. It will shew that all the early chronology is false, that the story of this empire is not told. It is certain that its existence can only be known from insulated circumstances collected from various quarters and combining to establish the fact. But if I succeed in collecting a sufficient number to carry conviction to an impartial mind, the empire must be allowed to have existed. Sidon is one of the most ancient cities in ancient Canaan. In the biblical eponymous chronology, Sidon is the firstborn son of Canaan. We find a striking correspondence in the Amanna letters from the ruler of an ancient Canaanite city called the Gobal. The ruler, Eli-Rapi, is pleading for assistance from Akhenaten or a successor against the Hephital Hebrews of Joshua. This correspondence dates between the years of 1350 to 1335 BC, the years closely attributed to the raiding of Canaan by Joshua. In EA 139 of the Amanna letters, EA meaning El Armana, under the title A New Voice and Old Story, sent by Eli-Rapi, we read, "To the king, my lord, my son, message of Eli-Rapi, your servant, message of Gubla, your maidservant. I fall at the feet of the Lord the sun 7 times and 7 times. Do not neglect Gubla, your city, and the city of your ancestors from most ancient times. Moreover, behold Gubla, just as Hittah, so is Gubla to the king, my lord. Do not neglect the delicts of a servant, as for he acted as he pleased in the lands of the king." I would venture to think that it would have been a sign of disrespect to tell the pharaoh that the city of Gubal or Gubla was the city of the pharaoh's ancestors from the most ancient of times if this were not the truth. This gives credence to the fact that the ancient Cushites and Hamites did come to Africa from ancient Canaan. The city of Gubal or Gubla boasts of having the world's longest inhabited city, dating back to around 6230 BC. So here we have testimony based on an early archaeologist and scholar, corroborated by contemporary sources that backs up Prophet Drew Ali's claims that Canaan is indeed the ancestors of Cush and Ham, those whom sat upon the throne of ancient Egypt. Let us see what other early notable archaeologists and scholars had to say about ancient Canaan, which was called Phoenicia by the Greeks because of the palm trees and the purple dyes produced there. In the book Prehistoric Nations by John Dennison Baldwin, we read, "It will appear that the people called Phoenicians were a branch of the great Cushite race, and that the country they occupied was originally a part of that empire of Kushadweepa, which extended from the Erythraean Sea to the Mediterranean." Mr. Rawlinson, in his essay on the ethnic affinities of the nations of Western Asia, states the immediate result of investigation to be that Hamites or Cushites preceded Semitic and Aryan civilization throughout the whole region, and he names Arabia, Babylonia, Susiana, Philistia, Sidon, Tyre, and the country of the Hittites as points where their traces are noticeable. The primeval Canaanites indeed were of the race of Ham, i.e. they were Cushites, and no doubt originally spoke a dialect closely akin to the Egyptian. We will now cite from the works of that indefatigable scholar, Sister Drusilla Dungy Houston's book, Wonderful Ethiopians of the Ancient Cushite Empire, which is a must-have for every Moorish American Muslim. She goes on to say on pages 19 and 20 of said book, Bunsen says in his philosophy of ancient history, the Hamitic family, as Rawlinson proves, must be given the credit for being the fountainhead of civilization. This family comprised the ancient Ethiopians, the Egyptians, the original Canaanites, and the old Chaldeans. The inscriptions of the Chaldean monuments prove their race affinity. The Bible proves their relationship. It names the son of Ham as Cush, Mizraim, Phut, and the race of Canaan. Mizraim peopled Egypt, and Canaan the land later possessed by the Hebrews. Phut located in Africa, and Cush extended his colonies over a wide domain. She concludes, Bunsen concludes by saying, Cushite colonies were all along the southern shores of Asia and Africa by the archaeological remains, along the southern and eastern coasts of Arabia. The name Cush was given to 4 great areas: Media, Persia, Susiana, and Aria, or the whole territory between the Indus and Tigris in prehistoric times. In Africa, the Ethiopians, the Egyptians, the Libyans, the Canaanites, and Phoenicians were all descendants of Ham. They were a black or dark-colored race and the pioneers of our civilization. They were emphatically the monument builders on the plains of Shinar and the valley of the Nile from Meroe to Memphis. In southern Arabia, they erected wonderful edifices. They were responsible for the monuments that dot southern Siberia, and in America, along the valley of the Mississippi down to Mexico, and in Peru, their images and monuments stand a voiceless witness. This was the ancient Kushite empire of Ethiopians that covered 3 worlds. I have several other sources from other early archaeologists and scholars who have concluded this same accounting given by those just cited. Let us go to the Smith's Bible Dictionary of 1966 to 1977. The older the Bible dictionary, the better, sort of like a Black's Law dictionary, because the true intent of the words are defined. Biblical dictionaries gives us what the biblical definition is and what the actual meaning is. It reads for Ham, warm, derived from the Egyptian Kim, dark. One of the sons of Noah, perhaps the third if Japheth was the elder brother, settled in Africa and also sent many branches into Asia. Canaanites. There is no ancient name so well preserved and located. Ham is identified with Jupiter Ammon and also Zeus because both words are derived from a root meaning hot, fervent, or sunburnt. For the last 3,000 years, the world has been mainly indebted for its advancement to the Semitic races. But before this period, the descendants of Ham, Egypt, and Babylon led the way as the pioneers in art, literature, and science. Notice that this source also agrees with Prophet Noble Drew Ali that the Hamites also settled in Africa, which means that they came from another place. And Prophet Noble Drew Ali revealed this to us in 1913. It says that they, this Hamitic people, sent branches into Asia, i.e. Canaanites, meaning their tribesmen and kinsmen. It is obviously clear that Ham is a nation of people and represents some of the oldest people on the earth, and that they had came to inhabit Africa at a later time after the Kushite descendants. Sometime after this, a war broke out. This I will prove forthcoming. Here is the definition of a Canaanite in this particular Bible dictionary. Notice that it says a Canaanite is any people in the land not Hebrew, speaking to the identity of the invaders. Now, I want to bring you to the Narmer Palette, which is said to be one of the oldest, if not the oldest, piece of Egyptian hieroglyphs and artifacts. Notice that he is standing in the smiting position. He is conquering the northern tribe of Lower Egypt, which were those ancient Canaanites who went westward and became the Libyans. They are called Foot in the Bible, Punt by the Egyptians, and are designated as the people west of the Nile by the name of Tehenu or Temehu or Tamahu. On the obverse of the palette, you see strange lions with elongated necks. Let us cite Houston again from Wonderful Ethiopians, where she cites John Dennison Baldwin. She states, Baldwin continues, 5000 BC, Egypt and Chaldea became separate. The Kushites were still unrivaled. 3500 to 3000 BC, the kingdom divided again. We do not know what caused the breaking up of the old empire, which for thousands of years held imperial sway. We can safely fit the time frame of the Narmer Palette with Baldwin's observation that around 3500 to 3000 BC the kingdom divided. This is what Narmer is shown doing, uniting the kingdoms of the north and the south under one rule. First, notice the headband of the prisoner. This is a Canaanite feature. I will touch upon this a little later and separate all doubt that the Moors are indeed descendants of the ancient Canaanites. This here is a jasper cylinder seal. Notice the monstrous lions and lion-headed eagles. This seal comes from ancient Chaldea or Babylon and dates back to the Uruk period of 4100 to 3000 BC, making it older than or contemporaneous with the Narmer palette. These are the impressions that this seal makes. Now, I want you to look at the obverse of the Narmer palette again. Notice it is the same exact beasts, and you can also plainly observe that there are two Egyptian men restraining the two lions of Babylon with leashes. In my eyes, this is emblematic of a nation conquering another nation and pulling down its flag. These are battles between the eponymous father and son that is etched into the Greek mythology quite succinctly. Now, here is a picture by a German named Heinrich von Minutuli. If you don't know by now, I might as well tell you. The Germans were some of the most racist of archaeologists. It is they who came up with the race system of Negroid, Caucasoid, Mongoloid, etc. This picture has been used by everyone from Dr. York in explaining his theory of a so-called black seed to junior scholars like Sarah Seti to explain how the Egyptians saw other races. This myopic oversight leads me to question the competency of these men whom the people consider as scholars and all-knowing and master teachers. This is what Seti I tomb really looks like. I want to bring you to one of the images. Notice this image. The legs are lighter than the body. The body is lighter than the obviously scratched out face, which you can see the dark shade of brown. Notice the headband as well. He is a Canaanite. Look to the image next to it. It is utterly scratched out. Why? To conceal the true features of who the Canaanites were. This is the image that the racist scholars, including Dr. York and other notable Afrocentric scholars, have told the world that the Canaanites look. You can clearly see the difference, and that these two representations are not identical whatsoever. This is what the Nuwapians under Dr. York present as Canaan and the father of all Canaanites, based on that picture. But the walls do not lie. People do. We must reject faulty scholarship and reject faulty history just because we hold fidelity to a leader God. Truth is being brought forth in this day and time, and it is the truth that will literally make you free. Many junior scholars and so-called scholars and Afrocentrists only show these images of the vile Asiatics to support their own racist claims that the so-called black Egyptians did war against these invading lighter or so-called white races. But the truth of the matter is, ancient Canaan was a cosmopolitan city that comprised many different peoples in the manner that the United States does today. Egypt launched many raids on our brothers from the east. Here you see prisoners of Canaan who are distinctly Moorish Cushite in their features. The features of this brother on the end is clearly Moorish. Remember, we do not use the term black or Negroid, as the law did not make such a people. Here are a group of Libyan Moors, of which you can plainly tell by the side lock. The subjected of other nations bowing down to Pharaoh. The Canaanite is obvious, as he is always shown with the headband. These are the ceramic tiles depicting Canaanites from the temple of Ramesses III from the 20th dynasty. This Canaanite right here looks like I crawled right out of his gene pool with the dreadlocks and sharp Hamitic features. We know the Canaanites, especially by the headband. Here is another brother, an ancient Canaanite, shown with the headband on, and he, ironically, looks just like a younger Dr. York. These are how the Egyptians depicted the Philistines or the Canaanites. The feather is a Libyan feature, and the headbands are there for you to see their descent line from ancient Canaan. Ma'at is whom the feather is associated with, but Ma'at is originally a Libyan goddess that was adopted into the Egyptian pantheon, along with Neith and Amen and several other gods. Here we have Parehu, the only chief of Punt ever named in ancient records. He appears here on Hatshepsut's relief next to his very heavy-set wife. Notice her headband, a Canaanite feature. Some propose Punt to actually be in North Africa and have related the term to the Libyans or Tehenu, which means Westerners. The cosmopolitan nature of the Canaanites shows up on the walls of Egypt as a voiceless witness to all. Look at the features of this brother on the end. It proves to you how these ancient Moors looked from the land of Canaan. He is said to be a king of Mitanni, who at one point were closely allied with the Hittites. Look at his royal garb, copied today right in front of your faces. Look at this brother right here, the ancient Canaanite. He looks just like the comedian and actor Eddie Griffin. Look at his royal Canaanite garb. These were the princes of Canaan who brought their culture with them to North Africa after their expulsion from the Holy Land. Look at this Asiatic brother. He looks straight up and down like the Puerto Ricans that I grew up with in New York. And look at this brother. He looks just like a Cuban or a Dominicano. This is the cosmopolitan makeup of Canaan. We have always been one people, the human race living side by side. Egypt would come to subject us. Here you see captured Libyans or Tehenu. Here you see Ramses smiting the Asiatics or the Canaanites. Look at the varying features of the prisoners. There is no doubt left when the walls are telling you how the ancient Canaanites looked. The prisoners of the Levant, of many features and shades, distinguished by their royal princely garbs, Hamites and Cushites. The captured princes of Canaan on the temple relief of Thutmose III. The headbands tell you who they are distinctly. Many people only show you images like this describing the Temahu. However, we see that the Temahu were many different peoples, not just European-looking peoples, and they were adopted into our tribes as well, and which is the reason why Prophet Noble Drew Ali said he is going to save 8% of the Europeans. Our ancient land of Canaan was a thriving, cosmopolitan one. The walls do not lie. Here, upon the handle of King Tut's walking stick, you see the figures of a Chinaman with the Canaanite headband on and an ancient Cushite. They are shown as enemies to King Tut and his regime. That's right, Chinese people. Again, ancient Canaan was a cosmopolitan city of diverse peoples and cultures, all bearing witness to the one true God El and his son and teacher of the light, Baal. These are the Libyan tribes, those that built the wonderful edifices of Spain and North Africa, the original Libyans. Their ancient name is also Berber, which can be found upon the temple walls of a conquered people by Ramses. The walls don't lie, people do. Here is the earliest known depiction of a Libyan or Berber or Temahu or Tehenu from the 5th dynasty of the Temple of Sahur. Here he is shown as a captive bound by his hand. This disproves the notion that this was a race war, as has been espoused by some junior Afrocentric scholars. Sahur was a straight Moor, and his statues and his likeness prove this. Here we see a Cushitic Moor shown bound. Here is a young Moor in Greece dating back to 100 BC. Here you see him shown bound. Here is another Moor in Greece shown with a fetter around his neck. The Egyptians started this capture and enslavement of our people, and the wall sought to tell the story that this is what we were meant to be, slaves. Here is the crest of John Harding Hawkins. The name of his crest is called the Demi-Moor. Here, this Moor is shown bound in typical fashion because the Canaanites, according to the Christian and Judaic doctrine, were to be as servants to their brethren. Notice his headband. This is from the 1500s AD. Now you can all see the headbands of the ancient Canaanites present in this day and time. Question: why was this never mentioned by Farad and Elijah of the Nation of Islam, who falsely taught that John Hawkins was the one that started the slave trade of bringing our people here to America? Why do we not find any history of one of our great Moorish empires, namely the Islamic one of North Africa and Spain, even mentioned in any of the works of Farad and Elijah? Why was this information concealed by these men? Berber, Moor, and Moabite are synonymous throughout history, and yet you find no mention of them in Elijah or Farad's teachings. They knew the distance of planets and stars, but did not know the Berbers or Moabites were the ones targeted in the slave trade. Our ancestors never considered themselves blacks because to Christians, black meant something evil, a sin, and the Moors saw it as a sign of great disrespect. In the Negro Law of South Carolina of 1839, we confirm this when we read at Section 4. The term Negro is confined to slave Africans, the ancient Berbers, and their descendants. It does not embrace the free inhabitants of Africa, such as the Egyptians, Moors, the Negro, Asiatics, such as the Lascars. It was Prophet Noble Drew Ali who came along and blurred the demarcation line and let it be known that those Moors, those Berbers were one and the same as those Moors that were the free Moors of North Africa. And how is it that none of our great scholars knew about this? How is it that Prophet Noble Drew Ali was the only one to know about this history and bring it to us? And how is it that he knew that we would only understand it in detail in this day and time unless he is who he says that he is, a prophet of Allah? There has been an effort to conceal this history from you and keep you ever bound. Here, the Moors are still being bound under the false label of black, which still means Negro in the Spanish language. How can you not be a Negro or nigger, but still be black? And it is the same exact word. How? Understand the psychosis that you put yourselves through, Moors. It seemed that there was no relief in sight until Allah sent Prophet Noble Drew Ali to us to spread the truth of our people and the fact that this is our land being occupied by the pale-skinned nations of Europe, and if we were to so but think, we could literally free ourselves. You see the captured Moabite Berbers on the coats of arms of many a Christian European family. They are almost always shown with the headband of the ancient Canaanites to let it be known to the world that they have continued in the conquest of Canaan through their Torah and their Bible, as it reads, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren." Name another people in the history of recorded history that fits this description. Name another people have been servants, who have been the servants of another people for this long. Name them if you are making this claim as a Christian or a Nuwapian. The pictures don't lie. These are voiceless witnesses to our heritage. They are shown on the European coats of arms, their family crests, wearing the headbands of the ancient Canaanites. Let the pictures, let the documents and the artifacts speak to you. Get the book, Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Science Temple of America, the movement that started it all. Learn about the mystical powers demonstrated by the prophet. Learn about the political sway that the prophet wielded and the Moorish American Muslims who voted the first brother into Congress since 1901 after they were all kicked out. See the empirical evidence of Prophet Noble Drew Ali's visit to Marcus Garvey in the Atlanta Federal Prison. See who the culprits were that split up the movement and the first Moor to use the term hammer in describing a gun after he gunned down 2 Chicago police officers. See the empirical evidence that shows and proves that Elijah Muhammad, his wife, and 2 brothers were indeed members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and the whole history that happened right here on this land that you were never supposed to know. Get the book now. Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the Moorish Science Temple of America, and the movement that started it all.